9 things the US president must pay for out of his own pocket. Presidential lodging and travel costs are tax-funded, but plenty of other expenses aren't covered, such as 1. Food. Unless it's a state banquet, the president is billed for food. There are skilled chefs on the White House staff, but they only cook the meals. The president pays for the groceries personally. 2. Hairdressers. There's a lot of image making going on in Washington, but at least you don't have to pay for it. Laura Bush hired a personal hairstylist during her time in the White House. She said she wasn't prepared for all the costs.
I was amazed by the sheer number of designer clothes that I was expected to buy, like the women before me, to meet the expectations for a first lady.
Speaking of which, 3. Clothes. There's no clothing allowance in the presidential budget. This has been especially difficult for first ladies. Michelle Obama paid for her clothes herself. Some fashion designers gave her special discounts. Nancy Reagan simply rented her outfits. She often forgot to return them afterward. 4. Soap and toothpaste. The White House is huge. Obviously, the president can't keep track of all supplies. There are aides who do that for him. They buy stuff like toilet paper, toothbrushes, soap, etc. But it's the president who gets a monthly bill for it. 5. Dry cleaning. The president has no choice. He has to look sharp every day. So dry cleaning eats up a huge chunk of his budget. Presidential suits get cleaned more often than anyone else's. 6. Vacations. The travel provisions are kind of tricky. If it's an official visit, everything is covered by taxes. But when presidents are off the clock, they must pay their own way. Travel itself is still covered. The president doesn't fly commercial. But apart from Air Force One, everything else is paid for by the president. 7. Redecorations. You know how every first lady redecorated the White House? Well, it's her family's money. A $100,000 stipend is sometimes provided for renovations. But most of the time, it's up to the first family what they want to do. Trump spent almost $1.75 million on redecoration. 8. Private parties. Official state dinners are paid for by the taxpayers. But presidential parties are typically even more lavish affairs. The president has to cover the costs of all food and beverages. He has to shell out for the servers and chefs. Entire work crews are hired to set everything up. The president also pays for his own Thanksgiving meal. 9. Legal fees. Some presidents need legal representation. You know, it's up to them to pay the lawyers. Clinton and Trump were both forced to cough up. They also paid for their own impeachment proceedings. In fact, Bill Clinton was nearly broke when he left the White House. He bounced back after a lucrative book deal. As for Trump, he still hasn't paid Giuliani